You think you know caffeine. You think it's simple. You drink coffee, you feel awake, you handle your day, and then you sleep because, obviously, you're tired. But if you wake up groggy, if your brain suddenly gets loud at midnight, if your sleep feels light, even when you got enough hours, there's a sneaky chance the problem isn't your mattress, your pillow, or your discipline. It might be your timing. Here's what makes this interesting. I didn't quit coffee. I didn't turn into a no-fun health person. I didn't buy supplements or change my entire lifestyle. I tested one rule for 7 days, one rule that sounded almost too easy to matter. No caffeine after 2 p.m. And I'm going to be honest. I expected a tiny improvement. Maybe nothing. Maybe placebo. Instead, something happened on day 4 that made me realize I'd been underestimating caffeine timing for years, and I didn't even know it. I'll tell you exactly what it was. But if you copy the rule without the setup, you'll probably fail by 3 p.m., feel miserable, and decide the whole thing is pointless. So I'm going to give you the exact plan that made it easy, the mistakes that quietly ruin it, and a few replacements that stop you from feeling punished. And if you want to run the experiment with me, comment, day 1 inch in your bedtime. Because I want to see real people test this, not just watch it. First, the rule, clear and simple. For 7 days, your last caffeine is before 2 p.m. That includes coffee, energy drinks, black tea, green tea, matcha, pre-workout, and some sodas. If you're not sure, check the label. Decaf is allowed, but remember decaf can still contain small amounts of caffeine, so if you're very sensitive, keep it earlier too. Now the science, fast and done, because I'm not here to lecture you. Caffeine blocks adenosine, a chemical that helps your body feel sleepy. Even when the buzz fades, caffeine can still be in your system for hours, and that can quietly reduce sleep quality for many people, even if they still fall asleep. That's the most important point. Falling asleep is not the same as sleeping well. Okay. Science finished. Back to real life. Because the real battle isn't understanding caffeine. The real battle is that moment around 2:30 or 3 p.m. when your brain starts negotiating like a lawyer. Day 1 was messy. Not dramatic. Not a superhero transformation. Just messy. At around 2:30 p.m., I felt it. That familiar heaviness behind the eyes, the mental slowdown, and that thought that shows up like clockwork. Just one coffee. Just a small one. You'll sleep fine. And because I had done this 1,000 times, my brain had a whole story ready. You've worked hard. You deserve it. Start tomorrow. So here's what I did instead, and this is the first secret that makes the challenge actually work. I made the replacement automatic. No debate. No motivation required. I stood up, I walked for 10 minutes, and I drank water. That's it. And I'll be honest again, it didn't feel as powerful as coffee. It wasn't a magic switch. But it carried me through the danger hour, and that hour is where most people fail. Night 1 wasn't fireworks. But something small changed. I woke up fewer times. Not 0. Just fewer. I didn't trust it yet. It could have been random. So I kept going. Day 2 revealed the real enemy, not caffeine, ritual. I wanted coffee after lunch out of habit, not because I truly needed it. My brain had trained lunch as the trigger. Lunch ends, coffee begins, and the day continues. It wasn't chemistry, it was a routine loop. So day 2, I replaced ritual with ritual. After lunch, I made a decaf or a caffeine-free tea in the same mug. Same ceremony. Warm cup in my hands. A few sips. And my brain calmed down because it got the signal it wanted. We did the thing. If you're someone who loves the feeling of a cup in your hand, this is one of the easiest ways to survive the experiment without feeling deprived. Night 2 still wasn't dramatic. But morning 2 felt slightly different, like my brain wasn't dragging itself out of a swamp. Just a bit clearer. A small upgrade. Enough to keep me curious. Day 3 is where people usually quit, not because it gets harder, but because the novelty wears off. You stop feeling excited, and you just want your normal routine back. So day 3 needs a strategy that prevents the common trap. I'll squeeze one in at 1:45 p.m. Because that squeeze turns into oops. So on day 3, I moved my last caffeine earlier than I thought I needed to. Instead of pushing it near 2 p.m., I made my last caffeinated drink around 12:30 or 1 p.m., and I kept it smaller. That tiny shift protected the rule. It also made the afternoon smoother. And that night, something rare happened. My mind felt quieter. If you've ever had a tired body but an alert brain, you know how frustrating it is. You're exhausted, but your thoughts keep standing in line, refusing to leave. On day 3, the line got shorter. Now day 4, the moment I teased. The shock wasn't, I fell asleep fast. The shock was the morning after. I woke up and felt rested before coffee. Not surviving. Not waiting for caffeine to start my life. Actually rested. And later that same day, something even stranger happened. My afternoon slump was smaller. I expected cutting afternoon caffeine would make afternoons worse. It did the opposite. Because when sleep quality improves, your daytime energy often stabilizes. You're not paying off last night's debt with caffeine and hoping it doesn't ruin tonight again. That's when it clicked for me. I wasn't fine with late coffee. I was just used to the consequences. And right here, this exact point, is where you need the mistakes, not at the end. Because if you make these mistakes, you'll never reach day 4, and you'll think the rule doesn't work. Mistake 1. Hidden caffeine. People cut coffee but keep black tea at 4 p.m., cola at 6 p.m., pre-workout later, or chocolate at night. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be aware. For 7 days, become a label detective. Mistake 2. Overcompensating in the morning. If you remove afternoon caffeine and then you slam a massive drink at 9 a.m., you can create a bigger crash and sometimes more anxiety. Keep your morning normal. If anything, make your morning doses slightly smaller and spaced out. Mistake 3. Replacing coffee with sugar. Some people quit caffeine after 2 p.m. and then treat themselves with sweet snacks, desserts, or sugary drinks. That spike and crash can make you crave caffeine even more. If you snack, aim for protein or fiber, something stable. Mistake 4. Judging the experiment on day 1. Day 1 can feel worse because your brain complains when a habit is removed. Commit to the full 7 days, then judge. Mistake 5. One slip equals failure. If you break the rule once, don't burn the whole week. Return the next day. Consistency beats perfection. Now here are 2 truths that make this experiment feel smarter, and keep it from turning into a boring, motivational speech. Truth 1. The benefit might not show up as, I fell asleep faster. A lot of people can fall asleep even with caffeine in their system. The change shows up as deeper sleep, fewer micro wake-ups, and waking up feeling like sleep actually did something. Truth 2. The afternoon slump you blame on needing coffee is often something else: dehydration, a heavy lunch, screen fatigue, lack of movement, or just needing a short break. When you remove the caffeine option, your body sends clearer signals, and you start fixing the real cause instead of covering it. This is why this tiny rule feels powerful. It makes your signals honest again. Day 5 was smoother. The craving didn't vanish, but it lost power. The negotiation voice got quieter. That's when I realized my need for afternoon coffee was partly withdrawal and partly habit. When you remove a habit for a few days, the habit stops shouting. Day 5 also made my evenings feel calmer. I didn't feel wired at night. I didn't fall into that loop where you're tired but you keep scrolling because your brain won't switch off. My body started acting like it remembered how to shut down. Day 6 was confidence day. You stop thinking, "How will I survive?" and start thinking, "I can choose this." And I found my favorite replacement: a 10-minute walk during the slump. Not a workout. No sweating. Just movement, especially outside if you can. It felt like telling my nervous system, "We're awake naturally," and the energy felt cleaner than coffee, less sharp, less anxious. Day 7 arrived, and here's what became clear by the end of the experiment. First, sleep quality improved. Not perfect. Not magical. But stronger. I stayed asleep better, and waking up felt different. Second, daytime energy became more stable. The huge peaks and crashes softened. The afternoon still dipped sometimes, but it wasn't a disaster. Third, mood improved. This is the part most people don't expect. When you sleep better, you're often less reactive. Little problems feel smaller. Your patience expands. Now, this is not a miracle cure. If you have serious insomnia, panic, heart rhythm issues, or medical problems, talk to a professional. This is general education, not medical advice. But if you're a normal person using afternoon caffeine as a daily crutch, this is one of the simplest experiments you can run. Here's how to start today, without overthinking. Pick your bedtime. Then commit to the rule: no caffeine after 2 p.m. for 7 days. If you already know you're sensitive, move it earlier and treat 2 p.m. as the latest, not the target. Decide your caffeine window before 2 p.m. 1 to 3 servings, spaced out. Keep your total roughly normal at first, just move it earlier. Timing first. Quantity later. Choose your replacement before the craving hits. Pick 1. Decaf or caffeine-free tea for the ritual, sparkling water with lemon, a 10-minute walk, cold water on your face, or a small protein snack if the slump is hunger. Track 3 simple things for 7 days. How long it takes you to fall asleep, how many times you wake up, and how you feel when you wake up. No fancy gadgets required. And here's one execution trick that protects productivity: put your hardest mental work inside your caffeine window. Schedule the toughest task between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Keep afternoons for lighter work, emails, planning, meetings, walking calls. When tasks match energy, you'll feel less desperate for late caffeine. Do a quick audit of where caffeine hides. A small latte can be 1 or 2 espresso shots. Cold brew can be stronger than you expect. Bottled coffees can be sneaky. Some pre-workouts and focus products contain caffeine. You don't have to memorize numbers, just notice your sources. Remember, your response to caffeine is personal. Some people metabolize it fast, some slow. That's biology, not willpower. This is a challenge, not a religion. You're collecting evidence about your body. If you finish 7 days and feel no change, that's still valuable information. It suggests caffeine timing may not be your main lever. In that case, the next two big levers are usually evening light and late meals. Keep the cutoff, then test reducing screens 1 hour before bed, or moving your last heavy meal earlier. The win isn't, never drink coffee again. The win is control. If you can choose your caffeine timing on purpose, you can choose your sleep on purpose. And when sleep improves, everything else gets easier: work, mood, cravings, energy. So here's your challenge: no caffeine after 2 p.m. for 7 days. If you're joining, comment, day 1 inch and your bedtime. Tomorrow, come back and comment, day 2 inches with 1 word, hard or easy. And on day 7, write, day 7 result, and tell me what changed: sleep, energy, or mood. You don't have to quit coffee. You just have to move it earlier, and let your night do its job.